What's going on, guys? CTG Matt back here at the title today. I'm tier listing and grading every NBA team's offseason. Pretty straightforward stuff. I'm grading your team's offseason based on signings, re-signings, and trades made, not the draft. Not the draft. The reason I'm excluding the draft is because if you had like a late round pick or something like that, I'll never know how that player is going to pan out. You know, I like, what's his name? Hanson Yang or Yang Hansen. He's a great guy. I don't know if he's going to be a legit good player, but off Summer League, he looked really good, so I'm not going to make that judgment today. If you enjoy, like, subscribe. We're going to jump right into it with the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks had an interesting offseason. They lose Dame, they lose Brook, but they keep Gary Trent, they keep Kevin Porter Jr., they keep Bobby, and they bring in Miles Turner. It's a really weird, bring back Taurean Prince. It's a really weird offseason they had. Where am I going to rank it? Honestly, I'm going to put it B. They didn't fail, I wouldn't say. It's not ideal because you had to let go of Dame, in my opinion. If they were able to keep Dame and sign Miles, we're talking about something completely different. But the fact that it was either one or the other kind of makes it a little bit more of a tough call. Did really well for them down the stretch in the playoffs and stuff like that. He's going to be their starting guard maybe next season. And then, of course, Gary Trent Jr. broke the Bucks bench three-point make record, broke Michael Redd's record. I always remember that one. They had an all right offseason. Like I said, the only thing that really keeps it from an S or an A for me is the fact that it was either Miles or Dame, and it wasn't both. That's kind of just tough. And the fact that they had to get rid of Dame, they don't have a point guard. Well, they bring in Cole Anthony. Do you believe in him to be the point guard? I don't know about that one. Kept their young guys like Livingston, Chris Livingston, Jericho Sims, if you believe in Jericho Sims. They also brought back Ryan Rollins, if you believe in Ryan Rollins. You know, Rollins Hive stand up. But overall for the Bucks offseason, I'm giving it a B. It was fine, not great. Are they a championship team? No, not this year at least, in my opinion. However, there's been recent reportings about Giannis maybe leaving the Bucks, maybe requesting a trade. I think that's bunk. I'm going to be honest. That's horse shit. I'm not saying it's fake reporting. It was Shams that reported it. He's one of the big guys with the biggest sources in the league, but I still just don't believe it. I feel like this is a nothing's happening, but we're going to make something sound like it's happening type of thing. I think Giannis is just going to stay there. Brooklyn Nets had what I will call a C off season. They bring back a lot of their guys that they might have lost. Trevor Etienne plays for the Georgia Bulldogs. I'm talking about Tyson Etienne, Tyrese Martin, Reese Beekman might come back. They brought back Daron Sharp. They also brought back Zaire Williams. They also bring in Michael Porter Jr. from the Denver Nuggets. It's not a lot. They didn't do a lot. That's why they're getting put in C. The Nets aren't really going to be great next year again, but you're hoping just to see some flashes out of some of these rookies. Also, whatever the hell's going on with Cam Thomas. Now, I can segue into that real quick because I debated on making a video on Cam Thomas, but it is just too boring to talk about. Can I be honest here? Cam Thomas is looking for an Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, Tyler Hero type deal. He is in that mold of player, so I can understand it. But let's be honest here. Emmanuel Quickley and Tyler Hero and RJ Barrett's deals, in my opinion, just aren't very good deals, which means why would Brooklyn lock themselves into that? Yes, the other teams paid them, which means it's comparable money to you. But at the same time, if they're all bad contracts, why does that mean the Brooklyn Nets have to opt into also giving a bad contract? I'm not saying Cam Thomas is a bad player, but once you cross the 30 mil threshold for a guy who's only, I know it's a big part of the game, but only real talent on the court is scoring the ball, is his impact on the game outside of that's very questionable. He's a really great scorer, one of the best we have in the league, but I think Zach Lowe said it, and I agree with him. It's kind of like a six-man type thing. I think Cam Thomas would be an awesome six-man, but that's beside the point. He just wants too much money, and the Nets aren't willing to pay him too much money just because it is comparable to other good players that are in your same area does not mean you should be paid the same amount. Emmanuel Quickley's contract is bad. Why would the Nets also opt into giving a bad deal just because? The New York Knicks, I'm going to give them a solid B. They re-signed Mikal Bridges, which I'm not really factoring into this that much. But they bring back Ariel Hukporti. No, I'm just kidding. That's not the only thing. They also bring in Jordan Clarkson and Yabusele. Clarkson will help them during the 82-game regular season, as well as he might steal them a playoff game, maybe one playoff game, maybe two. You know, he gets hot. He can really help your team, you know, shift a tide in a game or a series. And then Gershon Yabusele, who I very much so like. One of my favorite, like, bench players in the league, quote-unquote bench players. He's obviously going to be on the bench, but he's a guy that can play not heavy minutes, but he can play backup minutes. He can play in the playoffs, I think. Sure, he's a little bit undersized. He struggles with defense a little bit, but he's really good offensively. And I think that working with the Knicks, and they have a good amount of perimeter defenders, I think that'll help Yabusele out a lot. Plus the competitive environment. He might have struggled defensively with the 76ers last year, but let's be honest, that team was abysmal. So it's hard to keep that same defensive intensity when your team's 30 games under. The Raptors, I'm going to just have to put in F. They brought in Garrett Temple and Sandro Mamukelashvili. That's about it. They planted grass. Now, Jakob Poeltl got an extension, so, like, that's something. But they didn't really take any swings. Most of their core is locked up. They got rid of Masai Ujiri, obviously, after 100 years in the front office. I think that they're going to be, like, a strong 4 seed next year. That's what I'm feeling. I'd have to map it out. I'll do standings predictions when we get closer to the season. But as for right now, just in terms of off-season signings, you re-signed Jakob Poeltl to a 4-year deal. You lock down your center position. I like the signing because Jakob's a great player, but the team as well is just kind of mid. I'm not sure how to feel about it. Your only other signees were Sandro and Garrett Temple. They aren't really moving your team at all. So, yeah, it's going to be an F, but it's because they just didn't do much. Don't worry, Raptors fans. You're going to be joined by the Utah Jazz as well. They brought in Kevin Love, Kyle Anderson, Yusuf Nurkic. They got rid of John Collins. Got rid of Colin Sexton. That's really good. I like that. That's a step in the right direction. They got some pick equity. But the actual additions that they brought in, K-Love in a Jazz jersey. I hope he never suits up. I hope Kevin Love never, ever, ever suits up for the Utah Jazz, because Kevin Love in a Jazz jersey sounds disgusting and unnecessary. So we shouldn't do that. Kyle Anderson might be a trade piece. Yusuf Nurkic, I don't know. You're just eating the money just to eat the money on a bad deal. I think it's expiring after this year, though, so it's not that bad. But Utah, all things considered, it's not a great offseason, but again, you're still a rebuilding team. You can't have expected to be big players in the offseason when you don't even know who your star player is going to be. So here's one of the paper champions of the offseason, and I say paper champion because you still have to play the games. There's a reason we play 82 and playoff games is to see if the paper champs can win the actual championship. But the reason they're the paper champs, they bring in Kevin Durant, they bring in Josh Okogie, they bring in Clint Capella, they bring in Jeff Green, they bring back Steven Adams, they bring back Fred VanVleet, they bring back Aaron Holiday, they bring back, I think there's someone else that I'm missing. They brought in a lot of guys and brought back a majority of the guys that they had as free agents. They had a really good offseason. Some people may not like the KD trade. They think KD's washed, blah, blah, blah. Listen, KD's not 28 anymore. I think we can all acknowledge that. But at the same time, he's still one of the best scorers in the NBA, and it gives them a legit chance. Jalen Green as your main option was not giving them a legit chance at a finals opportunity or a run in the playoffs at all, to be quite frank. He was actually a deterrent in their first-round matchup against the Warriors in the playoffs. And Kevin Durant just gives them a better chance to at least win a series. I don't know if they're a finals team, but it gives them a chance. Now they have 3 good centers in Şengün, Capella, and Adams. I don't mind any of them. Capella's probably going to fall out of the rotation. He's like another 82-game player, a guy that you play when you want to rest Şengün or Adams, Overall, they had a really, really strong offseason. Like I said, there's still 82 games for a goddamn reason, so we'll see how it plays out. But in terms of who won the offseason, the Rockets are in the top 3, top 2 area. The Pelicans get a C. I don't know. Jordan Poole, Sadiq Bey, Kevon Looney, Trey Alexander. How do you feel about that? I don't know. It's a really weird roster construction now. Jordan Poole, where does he fit into all of this? Sadiq Bey, I'm not worried about. He didn't play at all. I don't think I saw Sadiq Bey play a minute last year, really. I like Jordan Poole. He's a bucket. But otherwise than that, it's Cam Thomas. He's literally just Cam Thomas. I think Jordan Poole is an upgrade over CJ McCollum. It's this close. They're this close. It's like taking a half a step up. Not even a full step. It's like a half a step. And the only reason I have JP higher is because CJ's bag work is more mid-range limited. Jordan Poole can actually get the threes up and be a volume three-point shooter. I don't dislike CJ McCollum, but I think I just like Jordan Poole more. But overall, like Kevon Looney, I think they gave him a deal nobody else would really paid him, which definitely knocks it down a little bit. I don't hate Loon Dog. He's just not special, and they already have Eve, and I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't like this Pelicans offseason. Joe Dumars had a creative draft as well. They had a really weird offseason that I just didn't really enjoy. For the Los Angeles Lakers, I guess I'm going to have to give them a B. They needed center, and they addressed center. It's not the best center. They didn't sign Miles Turner, who was the best center in this free agent class. They didn't sign, they didn't trade for any big names. They didn't go out and get Valanciunas or anything like that, which I'm okay with. Instead, they decided to bring in DeAndre Ayton. Dom Ayton is a not ideal fit, but if you can get him to buy in, maybe there will be something there. He has to buy in on the defensive end as well, because no offense to Luka and Bron, Luka can be in the best shape of his life, but if he's got to produce everything offensively, then you're going to get nothing out of him defensively. And Bron is 50. He's almost collecting AARP checks while still in the league. So you're at the point where you need a good backline defender. Ayton hasn't really shown to be that guy, but maybe he can with some winning pressure on him. Also bring in Marcus Smart, good perimeter defender that you could put around Luka. I'm curious about his fit, because the last time Marcus Smart played for like a competitor was the Celtics, and he was like the true lead guard. I wonder if he's going to play more of a defensive 2, like a spot-up shooter that play a 3-and-D shooting guard type, or if he's going to run the bench lineup when Luka and Bron aren't there. I don't know. They also bring in Jake LaRavia if you care. I don't know. They needed more white guys. Who knows? You got to fill your quota on white guys, man. Come on. It's not a lot, but at least they address center. There was a real thought in my mind that they would go the entirety of the offseason without addressing center, and that would ruin them. They also brought back Jackson Hayes, if you really care about Jackson Hayes. I don't. Yeah, they half address center. It's like a good enough, I guess. It's a, you know what? Is it a C? Is it a C? It might be a C. They also re-signed Bron, so I have to filter that in. They'd be a much worse team without LeBron. You're lying to yourself if you think they'd be better without LeBron. I think I'm going to have to give them a B, because if LeBron walked or if they didn't sign any center, it would be an immediate F. I just think a B is more safe, because Ayton isn't bad. I've called him bad before, and I'll stand on it. He's not the greatest, but I don't think he's not worse than Jackson Hayes, is kind of what I'm getting at, I guess. He's not worse than Alex Len either. The Bulls are getting an instant F. Maybe are they? Trey Jones is back. Isaac Okoro got brought in via trade. I'm thinking Josh Giddey's going to be back. I have Josh Giddey written down. Of course, there's no official contract for Giddey yet, but I just assume he'll be back. I just think that the Bulls are waiting this out to kind of say, hey, buddy, look, nobody else is willing to pay you, so we're going to lowball you. It's either you're going to accept it or you're going to sit and rot for a full year. The Bulls are a joke of a franchise, but yeah, I think they deserve F here. Trey Jones, Isaac Okoro, and I think there was one more. Two more. How could I forget Javon Carter and Emmanuel Miller? Emmanuel what? Yeah, Emmanuel Miller. I'm out on that offseason. Don't like it, and if they overpay for Josh Giddey, man, you guys are in the mud. Bulls fans have been in the mud for years, but you're real deal in the mud if you overpay for Josh Giddey. The Wolves are getting a B as well. It was only re-signings. Naz Reid, Joe Ingles, Julius Randle. It was one more a low-impact signing, but there was a real chance that they lost Naz Reid or Julius Randle this offseason. Like, that was a real thing that could have happened, and instead they kept both. That's okay. Sure, they lose Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but in my opinion, I see TJ Shannon, Terrence Shannon Jr. as his fill-in, or the other wing they got that I always forget his name. Hold on. Was thinking of Jalen Clark, I believe his name is. He steals the inbound passes, I think. I think him and Terrence Shannon, it's all about what was Moneyball's strategy. You got to aggregate it. You got to figure out a way to get Nickeil Alexander production out of two players who are not Nickeil Alexander-Walker level. But if they can equal Nickeil Alexander-Walker production, you're doing relatively well. They also have Leonard Miller, if you care about that. I'm giving it a B simply because what could have been was averted. The risk was averted. You know what I mean? They could have really lost both of their, really 2 out of their 3 best players in one offseason. That would have been disastrous. Instead, they kept them both. The Trailblazers are also going in B. It's starting to get crowded, and I don't really like it. I know it's fence sitting almost, but you bring back Dame, which is very, very fun to me. You bring back Drew Holiday, which is even more fun to me because he's back, and it's the second time he's been a Blazer, but he's never played a game there. Either way, you also bring back Ryan Rupert. Matisse Thybulle opted into his deal, which there was nothing you could do about that. Who the hell gave Matisse Thybulle that deal? That is one of the worst in basketball, bar none. I don't think there's a worse deal on the Blazers than him. Jeremy's up there. But that's an awful deal for Matisse. It's over $10 million for a guy who doesn't really even get rotational PT. They also bring in Blake Wesley. If you're interested in Blake Wesley, I don't mind him. I'm gonna keep it at B, just because you bring in Drew and you bring in Dame, and those are two guys that can help Scoot Henderson's development and can help Shaedon Sharpe's development, because those are two young guys. Scoot, it got better in the back half of last year. There was some real steps forward. I don't know if it was just end of season hoops, the old Josh Jackson where he goes to a random team and averages 25 a game for the last 2 months. Not 2 months, like the last month, because it's just end of season hoops. But I think Scoot Henderson obviously still has a higher ceiling, and you bring in two veteran guards that can help him try and develop and realize his potential. I don't mind it. If the Rockets were in the paper champion category, so are the Nuggets. They bring in Valanciunas as a backup center, a real backup center. He's a real boy. Finally they do it. They also bring in Brucey B. I like Bruce Brown. Don't know how much he's going to play because his last 2 stops, he hasn't really played a ton. Tim Hardaway Jr., who's an 82-game player. He can help you during the regular season, get hot, and steal you a game. And then you also bring in Cam Johnson. Cam Johnson, a spectacular catch-and-shoot player, is good at coming around screens and movement shooting as well. And you only lose Michael Porter Jr., really. But I also mentioned they kept Dario Saric, who recently just got mentioned on an episode of Good Mythical Morning, if you'll believe that one. Yeah, I couldn't fucking believe it either when I saw Dario Saric. Neemias Queta also came up during that episode. For the Denver Nuggets, they get an S, beautiful, because they added depth that they did not have before. Now you have legit decent players like Brown and Hardaway Jr. Coming off your bench, and Valanciunas to go with the other ones who were showing out in the playoffs already, like Strother, P. Watt. Their bench mob seems like it could actually be a net positive this year. And Jokic plus-minus on-off number watchers are going to have a panic attack if the bench starts playing well. But I like the Denver Nuggets offseason. We can move on to the Thunder, who guess what tier they're going into? The Thunder. They didn't do anything. They didn't need to do anything. They just won the goddamn championship. So what they do, they re-signed Jay Will and AJ Mitchell. That's it. J-Dub and Shea get an extension, and you get Chet gets an extension, and you get an extension, and you get an extension. So, they just did what they had to do. They did what they did. They re-signed everyone, and they're the only team that really did that. They're the only team that also gets the benefit of the doubt not becoming better in the offseason. Because they were already the NBA champions. So they get put in their own category. The Memphis Grizzlies, I'm going to put them in like a soft A. I feel like Santi Aldama, bringing him back was big. A legit 7-footer who can who can score, who can spot up and shoot. He could make plays off the dribble. Great size defensively. He's gotten better every year. His point per game total has jumped every year of his career, really, I think. He was at like 10.5 2 years ago. Last year, 12. So he's taking steps up. And then on top of that, you lose D-Bane. You bring in Ty Jerome. You also bring in KCP, which helps a little bit. I think KCP still has the ability to play well. I just didn't think it worked out in Orlando. I think it can work a little bit better in Memphis. I don't know. I really like their offseason. They still have Scottie Pippen Jr. I was going to say they lost their backup guard in Scottie Pippen. I don't think they did. He's still there. And then on top of that, you bring in another good backup guard in Ty Jerome, who can play good minutes because Ja has shown some injury issues before. And then you keep Jaren, you keep Santi, bring in Cam Spencer if you care. I think it's a really, really strong offseason from the Grizzlies. It's not perfect because you lose D-Bane. But like I said, you bring in good alternative options in KCP, Ty Jerome, and even Jock Landale, I believe, who could play some spot minutes. I really kind of like it. Dallas Mavericks get I don't know where to put this. C. I don't know. I'm not high on D'Angelo Russell. I don't think I ever really have been. Even when he was at Ohio State, I was not very high up on him. But he is an alright player. He could play some backup guard minutes. They retained Kyrie Irving. They bring back Dante Exum. They bring back Dwight Powell. Why did you bring back Dwight Powell? It's just so that way he can get a bloody face every other game like Dwight Powell does every game. I don't know how he ends up bleeding every game, but he does. Overall, bringing back Kyrie was probably the most important thing they did. I mean, they drafted well in Cooper Flagg, but I said it at the intro to the video. I am not counting draft picks in this, so that doesn't count in this. And overall, their free agency, they re-signed some guys. They didn't really bring anyone new. I don't mind it. I don't hate it either. It's just kind of an off season. They did it. Spurs get a B, I guess. Luke Kornet, Kelly Olynyk are two actual viable backup center options. You're not trying to play Bismack Biyombo, Charles Bassey, and Zach Collins anymore. These are real backup centers who can play. Luke Kornet and Kelly Olynyk can play. They're veteran, more established. I think Luke Kornet will help him out a ton because if Wemby's going to be dancing on the perimeter on offense, you can still stick Luke Kornet under the basket, and he's one of the best offensive rebounders in basketball. He's also a relatively decent rim protector. I wouldn't say he's good or great, but I would say he's all right. He can do it. You bring in Jordan McLaughlin, whatever. I don't mind it. Yeah, I really don't mind their offseason. You bring in two capable backup big men when you were playing busy Biyombo and Chuck Bassey last year. Not that I don't like Chuck Bassey, he can hoop, but just not real minutes. Overall, Spurs got a good chance to make the playoffs next year. I really wouldn't be surprised if they did make a playoff jump. The Suns I should damn near put in A just because of them doing the reset. I'm gonna have to put them in B. But overall, they did the reset. Thank God. I was really getting tired of that mid-3 they kept touting out there with Beal, Booker, Durant. You get rid of that. You get to try something new. You get Jalen Green and Dillon Brooks. Dillon Brooks bring some culture into the locker room. And Jalen Green will now be, I don't know, Diet Devin Booker, who's standing right next to him. They re-signed Devin Booker to a big deal. I don't really care, man. Devin Booker deserves all the money from Phoenix that he wants. The guy was hooping with Tyler Ulis, Dragon Bender, and other guys like that. Just absolutely awful rosters. Jared Dudley. I like that the Suns just reset, and you got rid of Bradley Beal. I know you're still paying him out regardless. That I don't really care, man. At that point, you're paying him to not be there, and somehow that's still going to end up being a net positive in my mind. I don't dislike their offseason. I don't love it, obviously. I still think they could have got more for Durant, but overall, getting Jalen Green, hopefully, I mean, maybe you can turn him into something. Who knows? Forgot to mention, they also traded for Mark Williams. That addresses part of the center issue. Mark Williams isn't perfect, don't get me wrong, but he's definitely better than touting out. I don't know. Him and Mason Plumlee are pretty similar, in my opinion, in terms of, like, how I think about them. Skill set's not even close to each other, but in terms of, like, overall production, pretty damn close. I don't know. I like Mark Williams more, though. I think he's just more athletic. Clippers, I think I'm going to have to put an S as well. You maintain. You bring back James Harden. That's fine. You bring back Nick Batum, who plays good minutes in the playoffs. He seems to always log good minutes in the playoffs. He's a fun player. You also bring in really good free agent acquisition, Bradley Beal, to be a bench role scorer. I think he would come off the bench for Chris Dunn. If not, he's starting. I don't know about that one. He's just Norm Powell at that point. And then they also bring in Chris Paul for a nice little reunion tour before he retires with the Clippers. It's an old team. Full disclosure, they bring in John Collins too. John Collins I really like as well. He can play your 4-man minutes next to Zubats because he can shoot a little bit. I like the John Collins move a lot. He catches lobs, obviously. Crazy. He's a crazy dunker, and you're adding a crazy dunker into the mix with Chris Paul and James Harden. It's like Diet Blake Griffin. Overall, I think the Clippers had if I had to rank these three specific off seasons up at the top, it would probably be like Clippers at 2, Nuggets at 3. Doesn't mean the Clippers are better than the Nuggets. The Nuggets are better than the Clippers in my mind still, but I think the Clippers just did more this offseason. They also brought in Brook Lopez, who can play backup 5 minutes because they didn't have a backup 5 last year for Zubats. They were playing Ben Simmons at the center during the playoffs last year in some portions. So overall, I think the Clippers did a really good job this offseason. Really strong offseason. I know it's a retirement home, but if you can get some injury luck, and somehow they stumble their way into a conference finals appearance, stuff happens in the playoffs. You never know. Warriors get an F. I just highlighted pin images on accident trying to pick them up. Warriors get an F because they did absolutely nothing. They have yet to trade Jonathan Kuminga despite getting constant trade reports or trade offers from other teams for Kuminga. Didn't want DeRozan. That's fine. Whatever. You don't want DeRozan. I don't want DeRozan either. There's a bunch of other offers that they got, though, that they just aren't accepting. I've heard pick equity. They wanted fully unprotected from not the Suns. Yeah, it might have been the Suns. They wanted a fully unprotected pick or something like that. They have bucked at every trade offer, and they've just tucked their head. The Golden State Warriors are playing ostrich right now. They're putting their head in the sand, and they're pretending like, we don't know what's happening. We don't know about these trade offers. I don't know, man. They got to move Kuminga sooner or later. That poor guy's going to waste his career doing nothing with them. It's move him now or stop. This Warriors team is very talented. Don't get me wrong. Their only free agent acquisitions, though, were Guy Santos and Quentin Post. They re-signed both of them. Cool. Quentin Post is a good 5-man. I'd say he'd probably work better as a backup than a starter. He's probably going to start this year, though. I don't know. I just think they should have and could have done more. They could have at least signed Al Horford by now, but they haven't done that either. Detroit Pistons are getting put in C. Hurts my heart. I can't lie to you. They bring in Karis LeVert, Duncan Robinson, and one more player. They re-signed B-Ball Paul. I'm a big B-Ball Paul guy, but just not enough to cover up for the fact that they probably overpaid for Duncan Robinson. Karis LeVert's here. It wasn't pretty. I know Malik Beasley was their 1A option in free agency, and everything happened with him all at once, the gambling stuff. But the cleanup for that has been less than impressive to me overall. Again, you bring in Duncan Robinson as your replacement. I don't know, man. I would have just rather given Gary Trent the contract or something like that, tried to steal Gary Trent away from the Bucks. I don't know, man. I didn't like Detroit's offseason, and it upsets me because I think there is a step in the right direction for them. Yeah, they're getting Jaden Ivey back, and I'm very high on Jaden Ivey, but I think that they needed to do more this offseason to solidify themselves as a true playoff team. I don't know if they did that this offseason. Oh boy, Kings are also going into F. Dennis Schroeder, are we fucking serious? That's what we did? Dennis Schroeder? Keon Ellis is back. That's like an actual thumbs up. That's not even me being satirical. Thumbs up for that one. I like Keon Ellis. I think he's great. Dennis fucking Schroeder. Doug McDermott. Isaac Collins. Or Collins. Is it Isaac Collins? No, that's a baseball player. Hold on. Isaac Jones. There we go. Not Isaac Collins. He plays for the Brewers. It's just, this is an ugly-ass offseason for the Kings. They still have DeMar DeRozan around. Zach LaVine's getting paid a ton. Sabonis is there. This went from a fun team to watch to a team that I may not watch double-digit games of next year. Kind of sad. Cavs are also, the Cavs are getting put in B. You bring back Sam Merrill. You bring in Lonzo Ball. Not really much else after that. And they brought in Larry Nance Jr. He could help during the 82-game season. I think he did steal a game against Boston when he was with Atlanta last year. He had like 16 points or something like that. Random pop-off from Larry Nance Jr. He's back in Cleveland. That's fun. I didn't even realize that. I forgot he was even there to begin with. I forgot about that. When he was there with LeBron. Again, I don't know. It's a decent offseason. The only reason I'm putting them here is because they cleaned up well from losing Ty Jerome by bringing in Lonzo Ball. Although he's not going to stay healthy because it's Lonzo Ball. But at least on paper, you have a backup. And then Sam Merrill was a good re-signing because Sam Merrill played a big rotational piece for them last year. And Larry Nance Jr. can play backup 5-man minutes because if I watched Tristan Thompson play one more time, I would have had to gouge my eyes out with a spoon. People probably want my Celtics to go into F. I'm going to be a little bit nicer and put them into C. Not because it's my Celtics, not because it's my favorite team, but because they added Anthony Simons, who I think is a decent player. I like Anthony Simons. He's a solid player. Do I think he's a long-term piece for the Celtics? Probably not. Probably not. That's just my bold prediction. Probably not. But I think that he's good enough to ride out this season when it's just him and Jaylen Brown playing your ball, my ball possessions. But they also bring in Luka Garza and Josh fucking Minot. They brought in Timberwolves table scraps and Anthony Simons. It gets them a C because look at the other teams here. It's not like any other teams in C did anything better than them. I mean, would you rather have Anthony Simons or Jordan Poole in the Pelicans case? Because those are their two biggest signings, and I think I don't think there's a clear answer there. They're kind of almost the same, form of player. So it makes sense to me to keep them in that tier. 76ers, I'm having a tough time with. I think I'm going to have to put them in B as well. B is starting to feel like a lazy-ass category and just for me to cop out. I hate it. It makes me mad, but overall it feels like they had an all right off-season. Andre Drummond is back, who I think can be a viable backup 5-man option. And Kelly Oubre is back. He picked up his option. That's a real backup. He finished well at the rim last year, I'm pretty sure, but he shot the 3-ball awfully. I don't know. We'll see how that turns out. But they also bring in a couple of guys that I really like. I am a big Jabari Walker guy. I don't know if you guys have looked at his on-off numbers, his cleaning glass page. He ain't perfect, but he's not bad. He's not bad. And if he can find some footing in Philadelphia, that'd be really, really fun for me. I don't like Philadelphia. I'm a Celtics fan. I just said that. But overall, I really am rooting for Jabari Walker with Philadelphia. Hopefully he cracks the rotation or at least works himself into a role where he can, work himself into a trade, because I think he's a good player. I think there's a good player in there. I just don't think he got the opportunity in Portland. I don't know if he'll get the opportunity in Philadelphia either. But just in terms of player profile, I think Jabari Walker is a good player. They also bring in Trendon Watford, who I think is an all right player as well. They kept all their backups. Kyle Lowry's there, Eric Gordon's there, who can help for 82 games if you need to. But overall, I think it's an okay offseason simply because they kept their guys and they signed a couple of players that I really like in Watford and Walker. I think I'm going to have to move them down, because the more I'm thinking about it, I feel like the other teams in this row just did more. They just did more. The Bucks bring in Miles Turner. I know it's sexy and they lose Dame, but I think that's more than what the 76ers did. The 76ers are getting moved to C, just because it's buy low moves. I'm not going to stake it on my love for Jabari Walker. I can't do that, in all fairness. So the 76ers got moved down. The Hornets get a B. The Hornets get a fine B with me. Colin Sexton, Mason Plumlee, Spencer Dinwiddie, Notre Dame's finest Pat Connaughton is in the building now. They bring back Trey Mann, and they bring in my Kentucky guy, Antonio Reeves, who, again, I'm a Kentucky fan. I think he's great. And Trey Mann was really good in the limited amount of time he was able to play last season with the Hornets before his injury. I think Colin Sexton can play a good backup role or even start in a pinch if you need him to. Him and Trey Mann as a backup backcourt would be nice. My only issue is that they really don't have a center. I mean, it's Moussa Diabate and Mason Plumlee. I like Moussa Diabate. I think he's a great player. Or not a great player, but I think he's a fine player. But do I think him and Plum Dog are a good center core? Jury's still out, and I'm leaning no. They also brought in Dinwiddie. They have a lot of guards. That's what I'm realizing. Dinwiddie, Mann, Sexton, and then LaMelo, and Brandon Miller's a 2-3. Either way, they have guard help because they realize LaMelo misses a ton of time. I don't know. They might be watchable next year. At least they did stuff. The Wizards. I like the Wizards offseason. This is going to sound weird. I like the Wizards offseason. They bring back Tristan Vucevic, who I'm a fan of. He's a 7-footer. That moves well for a 7-footer. Him next to Sarr in a front court would be fun. Then you also bring in CJ McCollum, who is a talented scorer that can help their backcourt and help, he's a vet. Bring in Marvin Bagley, whatever. You also bring in Malachi Branham and Cam Whitmore, 2 buy low options on guys who are buckets that just, I don't know if I love it to put it in A. Should I move one of these teams in B up? Because it feels like I'm just being lazy with it, not putting any of these teams in A. If anyone, I'm putting the Bucks up. But the Bucks also lost Dame Lillard. Like, that's huge. I don't know. I really don't know. I could separate it with like B minuses and stuff. I don't want to I don't want to add too many ingredients into the recipe. I'm just putting them in B. I like a lot of their signings, man. Bring back Chris Middleton. He had a player option, whatever. It's Chris Middleton. He's a good vet option, and he can play a little bit. They might sneak an 8 seed next year. Might. They'll end up in the play-in. If they make the playoffs, it'll be because they want a play-in game or two. But overall, I don't think they have worst team in the league feel this year. That might be crazy. I might have to sift their roster again. They lost Jordan Poole, obviously. But I like some of the players that they brought in. I don't know, man. I really don't mind the Wizards offseason. Like a good buy low option on young guys. That's why I mentioned Jabari Walker and Cam Whitmore and Malachi Branham and a lot of these guys. Justin Edwards, I didn't mention for Philadelphia. He's another buy low guy. I really don't mind the Wizards offseason. I don't hate it. Magic, I think, are going to go in A. Mo Wagner is back. That's fine. He's a good backup 5-man. You also bring in Tyus Jones. I was going to say Trey Jones. Tyus Jones, who can actually lead an offense, and he can play and he can play big minutes. Like I said the last time I talked about the Magic, bro, Corey fucking Joe was playing big minutes for them in the playoffs. Corey Joe, right? That's not pretty. And you bring in Tyus Jones, who can play serviceable backup minutes when Suggs is healthy. And then you also bring in Desmond Bane. This team could not shoot. This team couldn't throw a rock into the ocean if they were standing on the beach. This team could not shoot a damn lick last year. Desmond Bane, if he's nothing else, he is a good shooter. All right, I know he has T-Rex arms and a weird build, but man, he can shoot the ball, right? I really like the Magic's offseason just because they added some guys that can shoot. Tyus Jones, a 40% three-point shooter too area. He's in that 38%, 40% area. He can shoot on limited attempts. Desmond Bane can shoot on a lot of attempts. And Mo Wagner's your backup dirty work big man unless you want to play Goga. I like Goga a lot though. I think the Magic did a good job. It's funny how they're right next to each other. I like both sides of that trade, weirdly enough. The Heat are going to go in C, but it's like a C+, B- area. Norm Powell, I don't mind. He's just, I don't know. I was going to say something crazy. He's just almost Tyler Hero type. He's a bucket first. And yeah, not much playmaking in there. Tyler Hero's probably a better playmaker, but they're in the same type of score. I like the move. I don't mind the move. He's on a one-year deal, too. It's not like it's going to impact your team. And then you bring back Davion, who showed positive signs with them last year in the time he was there after the trade, right? I think it's okay. I don't think it's really that good. You lose Slow-Mo and you lose Kevin Love. Oh, no. Overall, I don't mind the Heat's offseason. I don't hate it. But Norm Powell on a salary dump, not a salary dump, but on a one-year deal, isn't bad. Simone Fontecchio, if you believe in him, he's there too. I don't hate it. This is another strong A. I don't think I'm throwing them an S, just because I still think they lost a little bit too. Like, Capello's not awful. He shouldn't be starting. He shouldn't have been starting at all, but I don't know. They bring in Porzingis, which is cool if he doesn't have the sickness. If he has mystery sickness, I don't know what that means for the team, because mystery sickness Porzingis is not a good player. If you watched the playoffs last year, you saw him gassing out after like 6 minutes of play. You can't afford that as a team, especially if he's your starter. I don't know if he's going to be because Onyeka is good, but if Porzingis is not healthy, if Porzingis is still coughy, sneezy, wheezy, whatever the fuck, you're screwed. You're screwed. That was like one of the biggest ads they had. Nikhil is fantastic as a two guard. He could play defense. He could shoot. He could even play make a little bit, scoring with the ball. He's not a bad player. Luke Kennard is a good spot-up shooter, or he runs around screens well and shoots. I think they had one of the better off seasons in the league. My question is Porzingis. Also, they brought back Keaton Wallace, who I'm a big fan of. But my biggest question is literally just about Porzingis, bro. If Porzingis has mystery illness, that's not ideal. That leaves them in an awful spot because they need scoring, if anything. They have good defenders in Dyson, Nikhil, Onyeka, but then Jalen Johnson's a good defender, but they need scoring. Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, and kind of Zach Risache, but overall, I think they need a guy like Porzingis to be healthy. I'm just not sure if he will be. The Indiana Pacers are getting put in C. They lost Miles Turner, which is horrible, by the way. That's like a really, really bad loss for them, considering he's their longest tenured player. He was their longest tenured player. And now it leaves a void at the five-man spot, and you're going to have constant competition. Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman, recently acquired Jay Huff is in the mix. Tony Bradley, Thomas Bryant. It's gross. They're all bad options. I don't think there's a true win in there for whoever you start. But overall, it hurts that Tyrese went down. We weren't going to make any big moves this offseason because of the fact Tyrese went down. You're not going to overextend your resources for this season when your star player is not going to play. That'd be just pointless. But losing Miles Turner and not being able to get an extension done with him, Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles is like getting stabbed in the heart. Losing Miles Turner in free agency like a month after is twisting said knife in heart, right? It's just a really bad spot. They cleaned up moderately well. I mean, you bring in reverse dunk god Jay Huff, and then you bring in, James Wiseman if you care. It's not ugly. It is ugly, actually. It's pretty spooky. I don't know. I don't really like their offseason, but that's only because they lost Miles Turner. If they retained Miles Turner, they'd be like a B or a C, or a B or an A. I meant the wrong letters. That's all the teams, if you've noticed. If you enjoyed this video, you should subscribe. It's simple stuff, man. I'm not asking the world out of you. I want to get to 100. Easy enough. Thank you, guys. I'm going to go catch the game. See you guys in the next one. Thanks for joining.